Thank you for those kind words, Alberto. I see the no pressure thing is on. So, as Alberto said, giving a TEDx has been a dream of mine. At a young age, I always had a little bit of anxiety when speaking on stage. And a year ago, I was at this event hosted by an organization where I made a deal with myself and I drew something on a piece of paper that is me standing in front of an audience and speaking. And less than a year later, I'm proud to say that it's come true. So thank you all so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of my talk. So, first question. Would Julius Caesar be as good a leader today as he was 2,000 years ago? Well, the assumption would be a no, because he was killed by his people, right? There's a little bit more of an interesting perspective on that, which I will give to you at the end of my talk now. Before that, I'm going to give you a story. It's a personal story of mine. It's from when I was in high school. It was the first time that I was elected to be a member of the student council. I was very excited. I was now a leader. I held a badge of honor. I held my title proud, and yeah, it was great. And I wanted to make so many changes. I really wanted to transform how our community was working and the actions in the school, how we could do things better, how we could do sports better, and so many things. 2 months in, I realized the issues that we face with leadership today. Because while I was expected to hold my title proud, my badge of honor, I was also expected to follow orders, to follow what I was told. And that was it. And that's when I realized leadership is tricky. There are way too many complications that we have to deal with. And at the end of the day, you have to be answerable to someone. And this is the very reason why leadership does not work for millennials. I'll come back to that. So leadership. It's a concept that we as millennials are very familiar with. We've been constantly talking about it. And why? Well, it's got to do with what leadership once was and what leadership stands to be today. At a point, we saw leadership was basically anyone who held a managerial role within an organization, be it a student organization or a firm. And they generally got there by achieving targets, raking in the numbers, and by being able to position themselves. But does this definition of leadership stand in today's world? To conclude, the worldview of a leader that existed, or I hope it existed and doesn't exist, is one of a hero, the voice followed, the example that everyone should look up to, right? Well, as a millennial, I believe we strongly disagree with this worldview of a leader as a hero. It's changed, it's evolved where it has to be a discussion. It is no longer just one line of thinking. Because we as millennials, we don't aim for what the previous generation did. For us, we want more than a paycheck. We want more than just some interesting projects. We want to make an impact that makes a difference. So diving in from here, we have to think of leadership in general. What are the theories of leadership, right? Well, I'm going to explain two to you today. And there are quite a few, but I think these two stand to be the most relevant for this talk. There's transformational leadership and transactional leadership. Transformational leadership is one that is idolized in today's world. Everybody wants to be a transformational leader. Like, yes, we're here to make a difference. Come join us and you can make an impact. That's what a transformational leader seems to be, right? And then there's a transactional leader. And a transactional leader is basically an exchange of goods and services. If you do this work for me, and if you do it well, I will help you and also give you a paycheck. Now, the problem is that transformational leadership has been idolized to such an extent, but it hasn't been applied. Let me give you an example. as to why transformational leadership is being idolized. If you're in a firm, let's say, you join a firm, you have a lot of ideas, you really want to make a difference, but there's a culture that exists within the firm. And the problem with this culture is that to be promoted, you have to hit the targets. You have to push through a few specific things that the management team wants. Otherwise, you will never get to that managerial level position or that promotion or that new car. And slowly but steadily, anyone who wanted to be a transformational leader slowly stops doing that and starts becoming a transactional leader, because that's the only way to grow in that organization. Coming back to this point, this is the very reason why transactional leadership is still one that exists in today's world, but under the facade of it being transformational leadership. And that's the danger we face with leadership today. The story that we are told is one of evolution, but the truth behind the story is one of stagnation. Business leaders in today's world are struggling extensively with this problem. They can't manage millennials. They really struggle with it. We're lazy, we're entitled, we're arrogant, we're not motivated. That's the tags that are put onto us. But the real question is, can millennials be managed? Or better yet, should millennials be managed? It's something to consider, because management itself, that very concept, does anybody here know where management came from, where it began? Please raise your hands. So let me tell you, management began in the 1900s when factories first came. That is when management was at its peak, because at that point, the kind of services being delivered was physical labor. That's all management was, right? But the work that we do has evolved. It's evolved from physical labor to light office work to delivering advanced technological services today. Isn't it absurd and, well, detrimental to the evolution of leadership that we are using a technique that was implemented in the second industrial revolution for factories at the doorstep of the fourth industrial revolution today to deliver way more advanced services? The whole concept of management is outdated. Another interesting point here, during this very industrial revolution was when the 8-hour working day came into play. That's when the theory of the 8-hour working day was born. It was 8 hours of play, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours of work. So that is another thing that is very outdated. How many millennials do we know that are happy to wake up at 9 and come back home at 5? No. Employee turnover rates are massive at this stage because millennials simply do not fit into this structure. A structure that is outdated, standing at the doorstep of the fourth industrial revolution. So, how do we fix this? Right? It's simple. Be genuine. Be true to who you are. Firms today face massive pressure to be perfect. Standing at this digital age, the image is very important to all of them. And because of this, firms and the talent that make up these firms believe that they have no room to fail. And amidst this whole cloudy atmosphere of today with politics, with facades, with massive marketing campaigns, millennials actually couldn't care less about a perfect firm. If anything, millennials care about a genuine firm. When a firm is honest. So be open. Be open to failure. Do not try and implement conventional management methods on millennials, no matter how comfortable it may be. You have to take into account we are standing at the doorstep of the fourth industrial revolution. It is one that is rooted in change, not in comfort. Stop managing millennials. Start guiding us. Stop judging us by the numbers that we bring in. Start measuring our value by how we add value to the firm, to the team, and the people around us. And another interesting thought on this one aspect is that leadership in itself is not an easy game to play. It takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of guts. And sometimes, to be the right leader, you have to take a stand. In front of convention, the world will stand against you, especially when you're innovating, especially in a field such as leadership. Don't be afraid to take that first step. So I'll end by answering my question from the very beginning. Would Julius Caesar be as good a leader today as he was 2,000 years ago? And my answer is yes, he would. You see, he may have been killed by his people, but the reason he was killed was because he wanted to move ahead. He was growing in power and he was making a massive amount of change. And the council murdered him because they would lose power. This is why Julius Caesar died. He died innovating. So for those who prefer the Greek side of the world, let me give you another story. And this is one of my personal favorites. It's a story about a titan called Prometheus. And this is taking place when humanity was suffering. It was a long, harsh winter. They had no fire. They had no knowledge of fire by that point. The fire was just a tool of the gods. It wasn't man's power yet. Prometheus was the one who stole fire from the gods and brought it down to humans. And after that, humans didn't simply survive, they thrived. They made such rapid, ungodly advancements in both technology and building, and they went on a whole new level. And don't get me wrong, Prometheus was punished for this by Zeus. But that's the thing, conventions will always stand in your way. So the suggestion I have for you today is be like Prometheus. Guard that flame, for that flame will one day grow into a fire that will light the way to the fourth industrial revolution of tomorrow. Thank you.